Budget meeting of council order for Monday, April 29th, 2024. Before the approval of the agenda, I want to put a motion on the floor that we receive a late email from the Grizzly ATV Club and add that to our agenda. Take a seconder. Councillor Noxana. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Take approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Norbury.
That the April 29th budget meeting of council agenda be adopted as amended.
Seconder. Councillor Noxana. All in favor? Carried. New business 3.1. 2024 tax rate setting discussion. Report dated April 29th, 2024 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding 2024 tax rate setting discussion. Recommendation. Councillor Julik.
The council receives this report for discussion.
Seconder. Councillor Hoffman. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Julik.
Before I ask my question, I would just like to acknowledge that I'm honored and privileged to live in a community of many First Nations, Métis and Inuit peoples, and the land is generously shared with us by the peoples of Treaty 8. I have a question about wondering about the 1 to 13, the 25% decrease that we took at our last meeting. And I'm wondering, with losing that, those staff, what does wildfire mitigation look like? Wondering if that will cut back on clearing brush and dry grass and stuff like that.
Ms. Dorval.
Thank you, Council. I will defer to Mr. Curry with regards to.
Thank you, Ms. Torval. Mayor and Council, good evening. I think this is a two-part question. I'll share the answer between myself and Director Bradley, specifically to the wildfire mitigation. So typically, not a lot of mitigation happens from the Public Works Department in a lot of our green spaces that our summer students, or sorry, seasonal laborers rather, dedicated for Public Works will be undertaking that. In the last couple of years, we've taken it upon ourselves with the seasonal laborer that's for the Protective Services Department. We've taken that plus another individual from Public Works, paired them together and gone into some of these green spaces to incorporate or to try and do some of the ground fuel management in those areas. So we still have the position in Public Works as it stands in the budget. I'm not sure, and that's why I'm going to leave it to Director Bradley to follow up what that's going to look like for his staffing. Is he going to be able to provide another individual for us to continue that work? I'm not sure. A little bit back towards the wildfire mitigation strategy, it's going to be part of the Fire Smart program as well. So when we look at this year being the year that we're going to assess, we're going to look at all of our green spaces. If you'll recall, when wildfire was here, we're going to be looking at that 1.5 kilometer zone around Tumbler Ridge in order to try and identify what we need to do, whether that be harvesting, that could be perhaps even something as extreme as prescribed fuel burning or anything like that. That's going to be within that area, and then wildfire is going to branch out further than that, but that's not likely going to happen until 2025 for those. And that was always going to be the case regardless of where council set the staffing levels. That work won't happen until after we've done the assessment phase of the Fire Smart program. So I'll turn it over to Director Bradley, and we can just have that conversation just to kind of talk about Public Works in general.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. In regards to the staffing at Public Works, with a 25% decrease for this season, with what we are planning as far as an aggressive work program for the summer, we will be able to assist Mr. Curry in his forest or wildfire mitigation. To what extent, I'm not sure at this point in time. It'll all be dependent on what our work program entails. I hope to be able to assist them the same way that we were able to last year.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Hoffman?
Assuming that Councillor Julich didn't want to follow up to that, I'm going to hold the motion for a second because it might have to be split into two parts. Synthesizing last week on what we went through, I wanted to bring up an idea that I think might help our residents for mostly next year. Understanding Mayor Krakelka's desire to not touch reserves, I think the income from reserves, at least a small portion thereof, to balance the move that we decided on last time is more than reasonable. And what I would like to discuss is perhaps setting a target for a maximum increase next year. So for example, if we were to say 9% this year and whatever we needed to take from the excess income from reserves, and we can't commit. I understand that we can't say we are doing this until we're doing the next budget, but at least communicating the intent that we will cap in the 9% range for next year as well. That's coming from the concern of our residents being able to take these hits. I think it's, if we give them the heads up and to plan for it, might be less of a hit coming next year. And I would hope that with 2 years in that range that we would be back to a more sustainable level. One way or another, we're going to have to pay for the increased wages and increased costs. So before I make a motion, I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Councillor Hoffman. Any more discussion? Councillor Julich. Pardon me.
I apologize because I didn't write down, when are we going to be discussing because I don't think we can move on if we are discussing the ATV letter.
Yeah.
So
it's just the ATV would be involved in here.
okay.
Same area. That's why it's under discussion, right? So it's not
Okay,
part
so-
of the reading, so anytime.
Anytime? All
Sorry,
right.
I should have said that when I added.
Oh, it's all good. So I think for me, I'm still, like I see the 8% and I appreciate what Councillor Hoffman's saying today. I guess for me, as I synthesized, I like that word, as I thought about it, there's never an easy answer for me because we can't always get what we all want or what we think is fair, and that's just tough for me. And then we received the letter from the Grizzly Valley ATV Club, and I thought it was very mindful and accepted the knowledge or accepted that we were in a tough position, and I really appreciated how they approached their letter. And I'm assuming it'll go out to the public at some point, because normally they would see this in our package. So
It'll be just added to minutes.
yeah, so that's good, just so everybody can see. I really appreciated the clarity around the filming and what Osta Cruiser's content is primarily and what that looks like for them. And I will admit that I did not watch the Onion Lake Trail. I just picked open the first one and I took a really deep breath and was scared. And so, so I appreciate all of that. And I'm really hoping that we can, that I can hear everybody else's opinion on that, because they did come back with a new ask of $14,000. I'd like to hear what the rest of council thinks about that.
Thank you. Councillor Clickash?
Yes, Your Worship. I'd like to know on the reserve what our interest rate is that we're getting for it.
Ms. Dorval?
Money in there.
Thank you. I don't have that answer readily available, but Mr. McPhail may? Mr. McPhail?
No, the average rate I think was around between 4.5 and 5%. I don't have the exact totals with me, but it hovers around that. And it depends if there's other CDs that come due and so on, so it will fluctuate.
So any money that we take out of the reserve for anything is going to cost us 5%, right? So the thing is with taxes, I can't vote for reducing the taxes this year. I think we should be charging what we need to keep this town in good condition. Another thing is we're asking, we're actually telling our directors what they should be doing. When you get a list like that, you ask them to make a list, and you're telling them what to do. Now, reduce this, reduce that, reduce these 14. It's up to them to decide that. You want a tax deduction, then it should be, say, 10%. We want to save 10% across the board. Everybody cut their budgets by 10%. And then they'll go out and they'll do it. And they'll know how to do it so it benefits everybody and their budget report. I think it's really wrong to go and ask them to make up a document, spend a whole bunch of time, make up a document, and then they have to listen to us and get the tax deduction, go back there and see if they can fit it all in. Right? So we're going backwards on this. That's why we got directors. And that's why we should be dealing with them. If you want 5% off your taxes, ask them to delete 5% off their budgets. They'll know where they can do it. That's all I got to say.
Councillor Clickash, can we just have some clarity? Are we talking about the previous report with the reduction of 25%, 50%, and 75% that was supplied by staff? Is that the report you're talking about?
That's right.
Okay, thank you. I just want clarity on that. Ms. Torval, I just want to get clarity from Councillor Clickash's concern or question there. So previous meeting, a motion was put on the floor to use funds from our unrestricted reserves, I believe is what it was called, to help offset the lower tax rate. For us to redo that, that would have to come as a motion on the floor to be debated, correct?
Or, sorry,
If it was to be reversed. So I just heard from Councillor Clickash, just want to make sure that we're all aware the only way for that to happen.
yes, we would need a motion.
Thanks. Thank you, Councillor Clickash. Councillor Noberry?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. You know, I'll speak to why I think we should use reserves again. I think, you know, Councillor Clickash, you bring up that we have directors to tell us what they can do. I think they did. You know, the budgeting process, I'm sure you're aware, is that, you know, they come up with the number that they need and they present it to our CAO and they present it to us. Now, I have no doubt that all directors have looked at their budgets to try and give us the most cost-effective number that they can to operate without cutting services. I believe them. That being said, you know, some of your comments are we need to trust them. Again, I do trust them. I do support them. And I would rather see them not have to cut services, which realistically means how many hours? You know, I'm concerned about that. I feel this is an option. You know, we have $37 million in the bank. We should utilize that to preserve our operations the best that we can. And the same thing, why we're looking at reduce summer students, summer positions, excuse me, they're not students.
Casual seasonal workers.
Seasonal workers, thank you very much. Again, so that we can keep all of our operations whole. That is the last thing I want to do, to go and say, find 2%, because if they could have, they would have. And make it a lot harder on them. So at this point in time, I support the budget that we have in front of them, you know. And because again, it's not just about staff, it's also about our residents. And what do our residents want? They want to see us to make sure that we are bringing them a budget that is cost effective.
Thank you. Councillor Jilek.
I agree with Councillor Clickash, and I alluded to that previously, and I think, so where I disagree is that directors came to us with a budget, came to us with the things that they thought they needed to operate fully with. We got here, we did all the things, and then it said the stuff up there, the nice computer tells us 13.5% increase, and I know I went, holy hell. And at that point is where I felt our job was to say, we are looking for this amount of a tax increase, or this is where we're comfortable with. Let's take it back to the directors, because that's their job. I can take a red pen and slash wherever I want. The problem becomes, I don't know what they have in their plans. They came to us in good faith with this budget, saying this is what you've asked us for, and we went through and said, okay, well, we're okay with this and this and this. Capital, I think in particular, but I don't think that we gave them the opportunity that once they saw the 13.5% to come back and say, oh, you know what, I can wait for that for next year. But that 25%, that's really going to kick our behinds in getting this thing done that we had planned. So I feel like that's the step that we missed, because I'm not the expert. That's why we have staff. And so I feel like Councillor Clickash that we missed a step there. I unfortunately haven't had a lot of feedback from residents. I was really hoping that when we got to that magic number last week that I would have heard more back from residents, but I haven't. So again, I think that I'd like to discuss the ATV piece. I don't know how everybody else is feeling about that, because that makes these numbers change again. And yeah, so I'm not quite ready to move to the next steps.
Thank you. Before I go to Councillor Hoffman, Ms. Torval, the budget process come up a couple times already. From staff side, my understanding, I took clear direction from the way staff had processed it. We've asked for a few reports. My understanding is that's how staff wanted the process to be done. Correct or not correct, I guess? It seems like there's some concerns from council. I just want clarity on that, because my understanding that's the process that we were given direction for, and that's the process we did.
Thank you, Council. Yes, certainly, staff brings their reports forward, and the requests are made for their budgets, and if council approves it, yes. If not, no. We don't move forward with particular projects, or if it's with regard to the operational side of things, if council wants to see services reduced, then we take the percentage, as we did with the 25% there for the report last week. Last week. And we make it work.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hoffman, then Councillor Clickash.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually agree with Councillor Clickash in principle. I think we need to get our tax rates to the point where we can afford to do what we want to do in the town. However, where I don't agree is we did 0% in 2021. We did 3.5 in 2022. We've been kicking this can down the road for 5 years now. And I can understand not wanting a 13.5% hit, and I'm okay with not doing a 13.5% hit, which is why I was suggesting we sort of maximize in a given year, that we can say to our residents, we're not going to double-digit tax increase you, but we are going to be at that 9-ish% until we catch up. I just think we need to. We're handcuffing ourselves. I was really proud of that 5.46 last year, and now in hindsight, I'm looking at that and going, if we had done 8 last year, we wouldn't have been at 13.5 this year. We would have been around 10, and then the amount of cutting and pasting might not have been there. What I really don't want to do is keep kicking that can down the road anymore. And for me, I understand where you're coming from, Councillor Clickash, but if it takes a couple of years of 10% of what we make in interest or something in that realm to get us to a point where we can be comfortable that we can run our operations as we want, and we have the service level we want, I'm okay with that. I mean, this is the position we find ourselves. Do we want to do a large hit this year and hope that that's enough? We have another QP raise coming up next year, or we're going to have to pay for it one way or another. So I am actually good with 13.5, but I just don't think that's the general council support, which is why I think we need to go as high as we're comfortable with, and we're going to have to do that for at least another year or so. So willing to take hands if 13.5 all of a sudden works for council, but I do think we need to go as high as we're comfortable with this year.
Thank you. Councillor Clickash, then Councillor Noxana.
The biggest problem that I see is that we have not done any projects. We're not doing anything. The last year and a half, 2 years, we haven't got anything out. There's no engineering done on the roads. There's no PR on that. And I don't know, like, things have to start getting done around here. And we have to have the money to do it. And every time you go into reserves to pay for all this stuff, you know, we're not getting grants, so there's no grant writer. People are, I don't see any grants coming in for this or anybody working on these kind of things. I mean, we blew the sidewalk thing, and I don't know when that'll ever come back. Seems to have disappeared. I don't know. We need money to do all these projects. And reducing taxes, it doesn't bring in any money. And the people that I've talked to, and these people are people that are retired on pensions, and they say, well, we'll pay the tax. So we don't have any problem paying 13%. So I don't know where this is coming from. But maybe we better take a hard, long look at this. Thank you.
No, thank you for that. So just when you talk about grants, so staff is applying for grants, there's no question about it. It's right on our sheet. 200,000 there, another 250,000 on, yep, it's right on the sheet. Another $130,000. So we're looking at $580,000. Some of them haven't been approved or they haven't got confirmation on, but they've applied for those grants. So even though we don't have a grant writer, staff's always looking for grants that would be available for some of the projects that they're trying to put forward.
I realize that, I saw that on there. But the balance of the projects, in most cases, are going to take reserves to do.
Yep.
Right? So we need tax money to keep building our reserves, because a lot of that's already allocated out, the reserve part. You know, it's in there, it says $38 million, but a lot of it's allocated already. We probably only got 18 or 19 million dollars to work with, right? So out of the 38 million, there's 18 or 19 to work with. That's not much money when you start doing these things and fixing buildings and things that are required. And roofing, you know, I noticed a few leaks in here. And, you know, you got to have money. So I hope everybody's considering that. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. And Councilor Click-Ashton, I'll be honest, I didn't support the motion at the last meeting for that reason. I don't believe in taking out of reserves. Some of it's already earmarked or allocated for certain things, and that is a concern. But I mean, to me, that was the will of council and such, and doesn't mean the motion can't go back on the floor. Councilor Noxana.
Thank you. We keep speaking about a 13% tax raise, but my understanding is we had reduced from 13% by taking things out of capital. We knocked that down quite a bit. So are we able to get an updated percentage without the transfer from reserves that we had requested last week?
Ms. Torval. They did have it up live last week on their chart. I can't remember the number.
Thank you. Just give us a moment, Council.
Yep, no problem.
For you.
I believe it's 292,000 out of unrestricted reserve that came into it to help offset it.
I thought it was around 100,000. Or,
They're working on it. Yeah, I don't remember the exact numbers. Sorry. Like, staff's doing it up on the board here.
Thank you. Mr. Curry?
Thank you, Ms. Torval. Mayor and Council, so up on the screen here, I've taken out the $295,000 is what it actually ended up. I know the motion was for 292. It ended up being, just once all of the chips fell and and the numbers, there was $3,000 difference. So we used it at 295. You'll see that right now we would be sitting at about a 12% increase without transfer from reserve. We'd be at 12%. For most classifications, we cannot tax the utilities any higher than 6.5%.
Thank you.
Okay, follow up?
No, not.
Okay. Any more discussion in regards to items on the floor? Councillor Nober and then Councillor Noxana.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I'd like to make, in regards to the ATV Club,
Yep.
I would like to make a motion that we approve a grant and aid to the Grizzly Valley ATV Club for the amount of $14,000.
Seconder, Councillor Noxana. Discussion? Councillor Norbert?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I just pointing out that we did receive, so everyone who is watching or watching the recording, we did receive that new amount. They feel that they can do their service to the community for $14,000, so I support it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Noxana.
Thank you. I will support the motion on the floor. It looks like they have some matching funds lined up to do this project, and they have this group coming here. So we can either be a part of it and have some content we can share to promote our community, or we can not and not have that. It seems like a good opportunity to partner with a club. So absolutely yes, can support that.
Thank you. Any more discussion? So, yeah, Councillor Hoffman?
I would like to, but I don't think I can. If we're talking about taking funds out of reserve, I don't think I can support taking funds out of reserve for a project like this. I know we haven't decided yet, but if we could reserve judgment until we decide whether or not we're going to do the full tax rate, because I gotta say, if we're going to do full tax rate, I can support this because we're paying for it as we're going. So if I don't know how that would look like, so I'm sorry if I made things more complicated than need be, but that's where I'm at.
Yep, thank you for that. Any more discussion? So I'll make a couple comments. My thing is like we talk about, obviously mining up and down and such, and we've seen it in Tumbler Ridge. And then tourism came a big stronghold in Tumbler Ridge. That was another pillar to attract not just residents, but tourists to come to our community. And what I seen last year when they brought up Osta Cruiser, and they did their own thing, don't get me wrong, they went out to Onion Lake Trail, and there was a few other trails, and they did their own recording, I guess, probably with their cell phone. Not sure, didn't ask. But to me, when we talk about promotion and promoting Tumbler Ridge, this is a way of doing it. And I know there were some questions asked in previous meetings of who owns the video and stuff like that. State's reading a letter that we did receive, and received it this afternoon, is my understanding. But it's, anybody can use it. The District of Tumbler Ridge, the ATV Club and such, so they talk about using it, being available for trade shows, other ways of using it for material, for whether it's attracting residents and such, so I'll support the motion that's on the floor. Councillor Jilek.
I'm also going to support the motion on the floor. I have some other questions to ask after this, not for the ATV Club, but I really appreciated that one of their main priorities, or how I read the letter, one of their main priorities will be about responsible backyard or backcountry use. And for me, that's worth it because we really need to make sure that as we develop our tourism that we're responsible about it. And so for that reason, I will support the grant and aid to the ATV Club.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Okay, motion on the floor is to add $14,000 for Grizzly Valley ATV Club. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Dussault and Councillor Hoffman opposed. Motion carries. Councillor Jilek, you said you had another question?
I do. So I'm just going back to the new capital, and I'm sure that staff has already answered these questions for me, and so I apologize for asking again. I should have kept them in a better notepad. So the two other capital things within here that I feel they're high up on the list, though. So I just wanted to get clarity on the chain link fencing. What does that look like if we push it back? And the signage audit, what does that look like if we push that back?
Can you just give me the numbers on them just so I can mark?
So 15,000, number 17. and 15,000 number 25.
Thank you.
Just like to hear what staff feels.
I'll go to staff. I mean, I know they talk about the chain link is to finish off in regards to the building that was installed out at the airport facility is to close it in so it's not accessible. But Ms. Torval?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will ask Mr. Bradley the impact of if we need to push it back for a year.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yeah, currently, we are trying to extend the fence for the Public Works yard and also enclose the airport where we put the new terminal building. If we were required to push this back a year, well, we could probably make that happen at Public Works.
So when we just get clarity at Public Works wise, I believe it's to enclose the new fuel tanks? Ms. Torval?
Yes, Mayor and Council. Mr. Bradley?
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. It isn't to enclose the fuel tanks, it's to extend the fence beyond, behind the fuel island. So it was never done once we got the new fuel tanks in.
Okay, yeah. I apologize for the terminology used of closing the fuel tanks, but it's to enclose them so they're within inside the fencing from our Public Works. It's not accessible to the public. Mr. Torval, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. And then the other one was in regards to this signage audit. I believe that was one of the things that council had talked to about it, the strategic planning.
Okay.
But if, just a question from Councillor Julick, in just in regards, can that be offset?
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council, and I will put this through to Ms. Olson. She's been working on this project.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. If it gets pushed back, it gets pushed back. The project would encompass some trailhead signage and filling some gaps in town for things such as we have a new fairgrounds and stuff, so our directional signs need some updates in town. I would like to mention that I found a grant that is a little bit last minute, but if we can keep an amount in there so that we have 50% matching, I would really like to put that forward so that we can try to offset these costs. But it's something that I'm working together with the Outdoor Recreation Association on and seeing what the priorities are. If it gets pushed back, we'll just have to choose what the priorities are this year and then look at maybe expanding into next year.
Follow-up, Councillor Julick.
Yes, please. I was wondering, so I, for some reason, had the $15,000 in my head that it was going to be like a consultant or staff going out, and it was staff. So what I'm understanding from Ms. Olson right now is that the $15,000 is actual physical signs that we would be putting up.
Mr. Lowe, I think it's to do an inventory and then
Yes.
put ones up. I think one was mentioned was the fairgrounds, but Mr. Orville?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you. Okay, any more discussion from council? Okay, I guess my question, if we decide to move forward, Ms. Torval, do we have new numbers to use instead of an 8% so that can be read properly?
Yes, we do. Just confirming.
Well, it'd be nice to have them for,
Yep.
if this is going to go forward,
Yep.
I think.
Thank you, Ms. Torval. Mayor and Council, so currently we're sitting at an 8.2% for residential, 6.5 for residential, and then a further 8.2% across major industry, light industry, commercial, recreational, and farm.
Okay, so I just want confirmation it's gone up by 0.2?
That's correct.
Thank you. And then 6.5 stays at the utilities because that cannot be increased by us.
That is correct.
Thank you. Okay, any more discussion with council? Council's comfortable, no other clarity in regards to the budget items that are before us. Councillor Clickash.
I was just wondering, what would that look like at 10%?
10%, like what I'm sorry, Councillor Clickash, like if we were to raise it by 10%?
If we did it at 10% instead of 8.2.
It would lower what comes out of the unrestricted reserves. Would be my thoughts, Ms. Torval, just to get clarification on that?
Thank you. I'll confirm with Mr. Curry. If you can put in those numbers. Or get some numbers.
I believe that's what you're asking, right, Councilor Cash?
Pardon me?
That's what you're asking though, right?
Yeah.
Like if it was at 10, what would that reduction be in the
Yep.
unrestricted reserve?
Yep.
Okay. I just didn't want to be wrong. Sure, had it.
So, Mayor and Council, so at the councilor's request, so at a 10% increase to taxes across all applicable classifications, so pretty much everyone except for utility, we would have a net surplus of $138,985, which would then be just taken away from the transfer from reserves, which would be out of $295,033.
157,
Giving
157, some change.
157 would be an accurate, or 156 would be that.
Well, oops, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, so that would necessitate a $156,000 transfer from reserve still, is what that would be.
Reserves.
Yeah, for the unrestricted
At
reserves
10%.
instead of the 295 that was previously motioned at the previous meeting.
Yep.
Okay. Did you need a follow-up, Councilor Clickash, or you're good?
Yeah, of course.
Good?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Julik.
All right, well, if we're throwing numbers out there, what did the 25% on the report last week, what was that value? Do we have that still?
Sorry, you can give me clarity, 25% on what, sorry?
So we voted for numbers 1 to 13.
To reduce
By
it?
25,000. So what did that number come out to be?
Ms. Torval?
Thank you. Mr. Curry?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, sleeping up here.
It's quite all right, your worship. So to Councillor Julik's question, the 25% reduction across public works for numbers 1 through 13 resulted in a cut of about $36,925. Is what was cut from the operational budget.
Follow-up?
Yeah, yeah. No,
Okay.
I want like at least a week to think about this.
Okay.
Kidding.
Sorry, I just gotta get some of these lights off here. Councilor Norbury.
Make sure you keep yourself on, your worship. I can definitely appreciate, it's, with all due respect, it kind of sound like, the councilors who didn't get, who motions or how they voted didn't go their way, we're trying to hash it out again. But I can appreciate that, new information comes up, maybe people weren't as happy. But, for my side, 10% is way too much. Like, I was willing to accept 8%. I would like to have seen, I was happy when I saw under 8, 7.9, 7.8. Maybe it's that 9.99 that gets you. But, I'm not happy with a 10. I don't think our residents are happy with that. 8.2, I don't like it, but, I will accept it. Going back and forth, I can appreciate that, we're not happy because nothing's sitting right, but nothing's going to be perfect. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. So you spoke before I did. I was about to say the same thing, Councilor Norbury, but just in a different way. And I understand trying to get through the process. We're not just trying to force the process through us on council. That's why we asked the question at the beginning in regards to budget. When can we make decisions? When can we change them? So to me, I mentioned at the previous meeting how, we've put out 3 or 4 different motions about the same thing. Sometimes it stayed, sometimes it was removed. So until it's approved, it sounds like to me, and I understand how you feel, Councilor Norbury, and the rest of council, but to me it sounded like I think that's why this council is still discussing it. So I got Councilor Noxana, then Councilor Clickash.
Thank you. I like the idea of a 10%. I mean, I don't, but this cuts in half what we're taking from reserves and what we're increasing to taxation. It is a bigger hit than we all expected or would like this year. But if we don't increase more than we're comfortable, we're going to be sitting in the same spot, just as frustrated or more next year. So I'm going to make a motion that we, I don't know how, circle back.
No problem. Councilor Clickash and then myself.
Yeah, you can see that as we go up with the the interest rates, then we're starting to get more grass cut, things like that, right? And this is what people want. That's all I've heard all week is, am I gonna get the grass cut? Is it gonna be nice, looking nice when you come into town? Well, I can't answer that. I said, it could get cut maybe once every 3 weeks or something. I don't know. Is the garbage gonna get picked up? Well, I don't know. So it's obvious that people want lower taxes, but they also want all they can get. They want their town to look nice. And when people drive into town, it's a good representation of what these our hardworking people are doing. And so I think that, if you want to go 10%, I'm behind you then.
Thank you. Councillor Dussault and then myself.
Thank you, Your Worship. 10 is a nice number. I've been mulling this over too. And I have heard from residents as well, if you're going to do the taxes, just do it. Stop cutting everything. Just do it. So I like the number 10, and we're not going to please everybody. Not everybody's going to be happy. But 10 is good.
Thank you. So I want to make a couple comments. So I just want to be clear that the only thing that was reduced, staff-wise, was a 25% reduction in items 1 to 13. Some of that is lawn maintenance and such. We are still have not decreased any other service within the municipality, whether that is garbage pickup, recycling, snow removal, any of that. None of those services have been touched. So when I hear a councillor make a comment, well, I couldn't answer that. We have not touched any other service. The only thing that we asked staff to do in a report by majority was to reduce a certain part of the casual seasonal workers, not over all staff, just the seasonal workers by 25%. I just want to make sure that's clear out there. Just because I think that's very important to know that we have not cut any service within the municipality, besides the casual seasonal workers. Councillor Noxana.
I would like to make a motion that we increase our tax rate to all applicable tax rates, so not the utilities, but the other ones, to 10%, decreasing what we need to transfer from our surplus reserves.
Seconder, Councillor Klekash. Discussion. Councillor Julik.
I guess there's a couple of things. Me asking the questions isn't because I'm uncomfortable with things that didn't go through for me because I didn't get my way or anything like that. It's because I want to be comfortable that when I make the decision that I make sure that I have all the information. And so when I tend to be fairly emotional in the other meetings, I kind of miss some stuff. So I apologize for that, and I appreciate everybody's patience with me as I continue to ask questions that have already been answered. As I hear around the table, my biggest concern was around the staffing. And when I hear it was $36,000, which doesn't seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things when we just approved $14,000 for video, I wonder how or if there is a flavor to add that in back and then take just that $36,000 more from reserves, as we would be decreasing reserves by $156,000. But I'm also okay if that hasn't changed for folks.
Only way to find a debate would be motions, and this was my concern about all these motions and then bringing them back. It's like we're debating the motions 2, 3, 4 times. It does. I mean, it just seems. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm fine with it. It just seems a little weird this year that we're. It's constant debate.
No, I hear you.
Any more discussion with the motion on the floor? And the motion on the floor is to do a 10% increase on residential tax class, industrial tax class, light industrial. Major industry tax class, light industrial tax class, and business tax class. Any more discussion about that? Councilor Nobre.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate the comments from everybody. I go back to when, we were talking about how we've raised our taxes over the last few years. And, hearing from the residents, they don't like seeing large tax increases to all their classes. I know 10 seems like a round number. And we can get less out of the reserves. But I remember when we only did like a small percent, maybe it was 0%, was that year we did 0% to residential. And then we increased the light industry and the major industry. There's a lot of concerns by people who worked in those industries that by raising it that much, we are putting undue stress upon them. At that time, I defended how we did that, and industry's still thriving. As it stands, I can't support the 10. I think we should be closer to 7 than we should be to double digits. Thanks.
Thanks. Any more discussion? Okay, going to call the question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Julich and Councillor Norbury are opposed. Motion carries. So if I can just get clarity, because obviously it's not done because it's up there. What does that look like in regards to numbers from reserve, if I may, Ms. Torval?
Thank you. I will ask Mr. Curry if he's calculated that. I can't see the numbers.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
And I apologize, I can't
Just a
see the
moment.
screen.
Okay.
So we are at. Of course.
Need a recess?
I'm having a hard time seeing.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute recess just so staff we can have the right number so we all know what we're voting on if we move forward. So we'll take a 5-minute recess.
Yes, thank you. Okay. From reserve.
Ms. Dorval, if we have the numbers available in regards to what that looks like now?
So that would, with the reduction, with the increase to 10% that we did in the classes, with the exception of utilities, that would mean we've lowered the transfer from surplus to 157,000.
Thank you. Okay. And that's at 10%. Now, I guess my question for us council would be, do we know what the implications are for the PRD, school taxes and all that yet? What that percent looks like? Because that's not including the PRD increase or school taxes and stuff. Do we know those numbers?
That's included in the tax rate bylaw.
Okay. Thank you. I'll have to look as we go. I apologize. I mean, I'll be honest, we got our agenda this afternoon, or I did. Not sure about the rest of council. And no disrespect, staff, I understand you're working on numbers. Okay, any more discussion from council? Councilor Julik.
Can you clarify to me what you're meaning by, like, I'm feeling lost when you're talking about the PRD and the, like, so are we thinking that, like, so does our own tax increase for our, like, so you're saying our residents could see more than a 10% tax increase on their bill? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, yeah, there's still other taxations out there from other governing bodies, school tax, PRRD,
Okay. And we
hospital
don't-
tax, can't remember them all. Ms. Torval?
I don't remember them all either offhand. Mr. Curry, do you have it, or Mr. McPhail? Mr. Curry? Listed?
Oh, sorry, I was just trying to find it in my paperwork.
I think Mr. McPhail is able to speak to that more than myself, Your Worship.
Can't hear him.
Mr. McPhail, I'm not sure if you're muted or you've got some issues with your microphone.
Ms. Torval, if I can just get clarity, you'd mentioned when I mentioned that it was within the financial bylaw?
So, Your Worship, on the very last page of your agenda, you should have a Schedule A, which is the tax rate bylaw. And you'll see in there, you've got regional districts tax, the regional district for land improvements, and then the regional hospital. That's there. That's for the tax implications across all those classifications. At this point, I can't tell you if that is going to be, it's page 21 of 21. I'm not sure if that's an increase over last year. I'm not sure if Ms. Gies has any more knowledge to that. She might be able to speak to that.
Other than our general taxes, we have a Peace River Regional District that we have to, and they set the rate, or they say there's a requisition and we can work backwards to the rate. The Peace River Regional Hospital, the same thing. They say they want X amount of dollars, we work it back to a rate. The Municipal Finance Authority, they set a rate and we have to go with that. The BC assessment, there's also their rate that and there's no negotiating on that. And we also have our school with our residential and our non-residential rates, as well as our police tax. And those, the ones other than our general, they set the rates, we don't.
Okay, thank you for that. Councilor Julik, anything else there?
Yeah, I still don't get it. Can you like give it?
Yeah,
to
so
me like I don't know?
so we live in the Peace Regional District.
Yeah,
So the municipality has a taxation. So we have taxation on our core budget and capital budget, capital and special projects. The PRRD obviously does also tax the District of Tunbridge because we sit within the PRRD. And so I might have spoken out of turn when I talked about school tax and such, but we have the regional hospital tax. Now, I don't know if these are increases over last year or not, because I don't have the other one in front of me, but I would think these would be increased. So their budgets have to be done ahead of ours. So their deadline's in April so that we can have them. So these are true numbers. What that amounts to, I'm unaware because that number's not here in front of me. So I'm not sure what the overall number is from the PRRD in regards to the regional district land and then the regional district improvements and then the regional hospital. But those are their taxations that we pay out in August to the PRRD from the taxes that we'll collect. So we actually add this to our tax bills. So we have our tax bills that we just, there was a motion put on the floor. We know what the number coming out of reserve is 157,000. Let's, I want to speak incorrectly. That's on our municipal tax increase of 10%. And then obviously the regional district gets added on our tax bill as well. If we can just get some clarity with that, because I don't want to give all the information and not have it truly correct for council, because I think it's very important to understand that there's other taxation there.
Thank you, Mayor Council. I will ask Mr. McPhail if he can provide some information. He's having a little bit of technical difficulty there, but he should be fine now.
I'm hoping so.
Yes, you are. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Trying to get, I don't have, I apologize to the council first. I don't have the difference from this year to last year available for you. And for that, I apologize. And I'm just trying to see what I created. So the unresidential, for example, the increase, and I'll just estimate it. Well, for regional district, it's going to be about $1.50 for the regional district for the hospital per thousand, and on the regional hospital, it's going to be another 58 cents. I haven't had time because we just got the education and police tax this afternoon, and I haven't had time to come up with those numbers. The taxes for regional district and isn't as great just because it is a smaller amount. It's not 10 million in taxes. It's by memory, it's about 800,000 that we raised from regional district. I hope that helps.
Okay, so just clarity, if I may, Ms. Torval. Residential's at $1.50 per thousand. Hospital, regional hospital is 0.58 cents per thousand. Ms. Torval, just want clarity on that.
Per thousand, yes.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Can you do the math for me? So basically what I'm looking for, Mayor Kakauka, is, so when we raise our taxes 10%, do these numbers mean that we're adding another 2%, let's say, so that overall it's a 12% increase?
Yeah, so I guess it's your mill rate, and then you would just take the $1.50 times your average. Ms. Torval, if we may, we had a example in our previous agenda, an estimated 233,300 BC assessment on a house, approximate times that by the 150. I don't grab my phone and do it in front of the camera. While staff's grabbing that number, Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. It's my attempt to help. So say your house was $100,000 and you paid last year $1,000 in taxes, just keeping the number simple. So this gives you a breakdown of where those tax dollars went. So if you had a $100,000 house, that's 100 times $5.85. So of that $1,000, 585 was the municipal tax. And you go to the next one, and that's also 100 times that. So that was a whole $37.80. And then you go to the next one, and then the next one, and then your total tax bill was all those numbers by that rate. So we're controlling with this 5.85 is what we're talking about changing here today, which is under our control. Correct. And that also translates down the list for each of the various ones. But just for the residential, I'm hoping that helps to clear it up. And there will be a few more, the police, the school, down this list that ends up being. So if you paid $1,500 in taxes last year, it's not 10% on the $1,500 that we're talking about. It would be of the $900 or so, just rough estimating it.
Yeah, we don't have to rough estimate it. We'll have staff get a number.
I apologize everybody's patience, or I thank everybody for their patience with me. I do better
We
with
just, we just want to make sure, we need to understand there's, not everybody's aware that there's the PRRD taxes that
I
are
totally
over our bill.
Mayor and council, so if you had a $150,000 home, so based on $1.50 per per thousand, would be $225.
Increased, or tax amount.
Correct.
Does that make sense? I just want to make sure council understands that.
So that's total, like with our increase and the PRRD increase?
No, that's the PRD, residential increase
Just the
at $1.50.
PRRD would be 225.
225, and then there's the other, the hospital one at .58 for regional district.
And we're talking $2.25 or $225?
200.
That's what I thought he said, 225.
So I don't have the sheet with me, but that's why I had the sheet put in the agenda last week by staff, just to show what the average house increase for tax, not what your tax bill would be, but what the increase would have looked like at the 13.5%. We're at 10%. So that number has changed. Just when our staff has the other one, just so council's aware.
Sorry, Your Worship, we're having technical difficulties.
No problem.
My computer's going to want to force restart, and I'm trying to deal with that and listen at the same time. So can you please repeat the question?
Just in regards to the .58, if we can just get the number there so that they have a approximate number from PRRD side.
Okay. Can I respectfully request a recess?
Yep, 5-minute recess. apologize to all the residents that are watching via Zoom, but we've had some technical difficulties with the system. So I believe we're back on Zoom. Ms. Torval? Zoom is back up?
Yes, we are back.
Okay. Okay, if we can just start that process so that council is clear. And don't get me wrong, I understand when we talk about the PRRD taxation, we don't control that. Municipality as a council doesn't control that. But it is a tax that gets added to the taxation to our residents and our businesses. I think we should just be clear that we know that if we increase ours to 10%, and then take less out of the unrestricted reserve, which is it's already been passed, but what the implications could be. I just want to make sure council's aware, so when you go back out in the public after we pass it, that it's, when somebody says that I got a huge bill, this is our bill, this was the PRDs. Floor is yours, Mr. Curry, or sorry, Ms. Torval.
Thank you,
bad.
Mr. Curry, if you can present those numbers.
Okay, so again, I very much apologize, Your Worship, for the technical difficulties. All of our computers decided to force a reboot. It wasn't a problem with either the systems, it was all just IT. So, so you're 100% right, Your Worship. So the PRA and all the other ancillary taxes that are paid are based on your assessed value. The District of Tunbridge has no basis on that. We use the same assessed value and we're setting our taxes. So when the PRRD and the other school taxes and they set their tax rate, they're using the same assessed value. So we have no ability to manipulate that value and change that tax rate. We can't change either parts of that equation. What you do have the power to do is change what our portion of the tax bill is, and that's what we decided on tonight. So I hope that just kind of clears up a little bit. So you'll have to refresh me because I had a million things going on there. At what point for numbers are we looking at right now, Your Worship?
So I'm not sure if you were supplied maybe the sheet that we had at the previous meeting. If not, I'm prepared to pass you mine, but it gives you the equivalent that we had all in front of council, just so council's aware what the average increase per that household. So I'll give you the number if that's okay. So we have the one that was a top one. It was a typical single detached home with no or without garage. BC assessment for 2024 is 172,000.
Okay.
With a 10% increase, because this sheet was based off a 13.5% increase. If we could just so council's aware what we're looking at as an increase, not what their taxation bill will be, but what the increase will be over last year.
Okay. So at 172,000, oh, that's at 172,000 at 5.9584. I have it as going to net. Sorry, and you have the numbers in front of you, Your Worship. Maybe you can just give them, but it would net about $1,024.84 net would be your tax based on that. So
I'll just give you that sheet and then you'll have it and then that way.
Thank you very much. I should have
Sorry.
this because I drafted the sheet. So.
And to me, I'm not sure if it's for all council, but I just want to make sure council's aware what this does so that it's clear as mud.
Thank you.
So at 10%, we're saving about $30 based on a typical single-family dwelling without a garage. At 10%, from 13.5%, there was a net tax bill would have been $1,057.46, and now we're seeing $1,042.84. So more specifically, $32.62 is the difference.
Okay, if you can write that on your sheet, or do you? Mm-hmm. And the only reason we're gonna break this down, then we have the average, people understand it. And then that way, if there's any questions, we can ask them, and then if not, we can move forward. Is that good with council, then we, okay.
So that would be, so just so I'm clear, council, you're looking for what the increase would be over the neutral rate from last year. That's what we're looking for. Okay.
Correct.
I can make that work.
Thank you.
So. Single-family dwelling at $172,000 would expect to. Goodness. Would be a difference of $93 is what they would increase. So instead of at 13.5%, we said that we had an increase of $125.90. They would, just from the municipal side of taxes, they would expect to see a $93.30 increase in their taxes.
Okay, thank you. And then obviously, again, we can't, we don't make those decisions on the regards to PRD, but there obviously is increases there. We're just been told. And then also there's the sewer and water tax that we debated, and it was majority that ruled, and those increases are not part of that. Okay, any more questions about that? Okay. Thank you very much to staff to break that down. I totally appreciate that. It helps. Okay. So the motion has passed in regards to, if I can find my sheets, to averaging the increase across the board to residential tax base to 10%, major industry tax base to 10%, and light industrial tax base to 10%, and business tax class to 10%. Okay. Any more discussion in regards to the budget? The capital items or anything like that before we move forward? Okay. Ms. Torval.
Yes, thank you, Council. We do have the resolution for the 10% increase across the various classes, but we didn't get a resolution for the one for the utilities, the 6.5%.
I'm sorry?
We need a resolution for the second one.
Yeah.
Number 3, sorry.
Yeah, well, we can't touch that one, so the only increase, we haven't read any of those. All we did was do an increase from 8% to 10%.
10%.
Just before we start reading in the motions, then we know that this is what we've decided.
Okay.
And then we're not changing it,
Okay.
we're possibly not changing it under the third reading.
Okay.
Okay. All right, who wants to start off with some motions? Council Nobre.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. That council approves a 10% increase in taxes to be collected from the residential tax class.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Clickash. Discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Councillor Julick, Councillor Norbury opposed, motion carries. Number 3, Councillor Norbury.
The council approves a 6.5% increase to taxes to be collected from the utility tax class.
Seconder, Councillor Julick. Discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Councillor Norbury.
The council approves a 10% increase to be taxes collected from the major industry tax class.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. Discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Councillor Julick, Councillor Norbury opposed, motion carries. Number 5, Councillor Norbury.
The council approves a 10% increase in taxes to be collected from the light industry tax class.
Seconder, Councillor Clickash. Discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Councillor Julick, Councillor Norbury. Okay, thank you. Or opposed? I didn't think so. Motion carries. Sorry, Councillor Clickash. Just seen your hand move at the last minute there. My bad. No problem. Number 6, Councillor Norbury.
The council approves a 10% increases in taxes to be collected from the business tax class.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Julick, Councillor Norbury opposed, motion carries. Bylaws. 4.1, 2024-2028 Financial Plan Bylaw number 737, 2024, 3 readings. Report dated April 29, 2024, from the Deputy Corporate Officer, presenting the 2024-2028 Financial Plan Bylaw number 737, 2024, for 3 readings. Council Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. Do we need to read these as amended, or can we just read them as they are listed?
I don't know. I would say just read it, because we've already approved it. Ms. Torval?
Yes, just, yes,
Yeah.
as presented.
Okay.
Thank you.
That council gives the first reading to the District of Tumbler Ridge 2024 to 2028 Financial Plan Bylaw number 737, 2024.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Jilix opposed. Motion carries. Number 2. Councillor Noxana.
That council gives second reading to the District of Tumbler Ridge 2024 to 2028 Financial Plan Bylaw number 737, 2024.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Jilix opposed. Motion carries. Take third reading. Councillor Noxana.
That council gives third reading to the District of Tumbler Ridge 2024 to 2028 Financial Plan Bylaw number 737, 2024.
Seconder, Councillor Dussault. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Jillick and Mayor Kukalka are opposed. Motion carries. 4.2, 2024 Tax Rate Bylaw number 738, 2024. 3 readings. Report dated April 29, 2024, from the Deputy Corporate Officer, presenting the Tax Rate Bylaw number 738, 2024, for 3 readings. Recommendation 1. Councillor Dussault.
That council gives the first reading to the District of Tumbler Ridge 2024 Tax Rate Bylaw 738, 2024.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Jillick, Mayor Kukalka, and Councillor Norbury are opposed. Motion carries. Recommendation number 2, please. Councillor Noxana.
The council gives second reading to the District of Tumbler Ridge 2024 Tax Rate Bylaw 738, 2024.
Seconder, Councillor Dussault. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Jillick, Councillor Norbury, and Mayor Kukalka opposed. Motion carries. Number 3, please. Councillor Hoffman.
The council gives third reading to the District of Tumbler Ridge 2024 Tax Rate Bylaw 738, 2024.
Seconder, Councillor Clickash. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Jillick, Councillor Norbury, Mayor Kukalka opposed. Motion carries. Question and answer period. Ms. Torover, any questions emailed in?
No, there aren't any questions.
Thank you. Resolution to close meeting. Take the recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
That the April 29th, 2024 budget meeting of council be closed to the public according to Section 91C of the Community Charter to permit discussion about labor relations and or other employee relations.
Seconder, Councillor Noxana. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 5-minute recess.